SANZAAR's confirmed what we've talked about before, in that the Rugby Championship looks to be going to be held in New Zealand later this year. There's still a few dots to put on I's, crosses to put on T's. There's a fair bit to organise, but at least in principle, it seems that SANZAAR has made up its mind about what the best plan is to do, and that is to host the entire competition here in New Zealand. There'd previously been talks about maybe just New Zealand and Australia playing. Maybe the Box going to go to Europe and play some games. There's been all kinds of stuff talked about. Maybe that they would host the thing in Australia, but Australia's had a resurgence in COVID cases, at least in Victoria. So SANZAAR has said that New Zealand is the preferred host for the Four Nation Championship, pointing to, and this is an article from Stuff, but there's loads of websites reporting on it, COVID stability. New Zealand's got good COVID stability. We've still got cases here in New Zealand, but all of them so far have been caught at the border. We haven't had any community transmission for a couple of months now, so I guess that is the main thing they're talking about. If idiots who've got COVID and coming back to New Zealand stop trying to escape from their bloody hotels to go to the supermarket, then hopefully we'll be all right. So that's what they've pointed to. It was Andy Marinos that's given the statement on the behalf of SANZAAR. However, there's a big if that's in the way of it, and that's getting the government to approve it. I can't see the government here in New Zealand not approving it, because they've already made a few exceptions for, I mentioned it before, the likes of some movie crews who came here from the States to work on one of the new Avatar movies. I don't remember if it was actors or like sound crew or whatever it was, engineers. But there's a bunch of people who came over from the States to help work on Avatar. They were let in, and they've recently let in some like epidemiologists from the States. Now, the logistics around getting a few movie crew or one epidemiologist in their family is a little bit different from a whole rugby squad that's going to have to go into quarantine for 2 weeks. And you're going to have to bring a lot of players because you can't just fly over a replacement. So you're looking at big squads and support staff. I don't know if they would consider letting the families of the players come, because if they're here for the whole tournament, you're looking at maybe a month and a half at least. So it's definitely going to be a very, very big undertaking. So they require the government to approve it, to basically, because our borders are closed to all but residents and citizens, they would have to allow the South Africans, Argentinians, and Australians to come across. Now, when we talked about this before, some people suggested kind of like isolating the teams before they left, so they could do like a training camp before they hopped on the plane, which would probably make sense to get any risk out of the way, like minimize the risk before they get on the plane, and then they'd still have to do the quarantine here, but at least that would maybe reduce any risk of inter-squad spread once they're already here, kind of thing, because that would be maybe a worst case scenario if one of them had it and then the next one caught it, and it was like an endless chain where the squad couldn't be released from quarantine. But anyway, so government approval is a big if. If that happens, we're looking at September or potentially October, which doesn't seem that far away at the moment. But we'll see what happens. And but like I said, the teams would have to be put into quarantine for 2 weeks. So there's still a few big questions for mine about how that would happen. Obviously, New Zealand's going to have a massive advantage playing all their games at home. Now, what some of you guys suggested when this was still rumours was that you could base the different teams in different regions. So, like the Wallabies play all their home games in, I don't know, like Wellington, the Springboks play all their home games in, Dunedin or whatever. At least that would kind of give them that home feeling. You're playing in the same stadium every week rather than somewhere else, but it's going to be one for the administrators to work out how it's best done, whether they rotate the games all throughout the regions as well. There's going to be a lot of rugby on. It's not quite World Cup level, but for one country to host that many games, it's a lot, and you do risk a little bit of kind of oversaturation if you are having many games in one location and there's not that much interest as well. So I don't know. It's going to be a balance of how much kind of benefit would you give to the teams by hosting them in one stadium for all their games, or how more likely are you to sell out a smaller venue that doesn't get much international rugby to see like the Springboks play the Pumas here in New Zealand, where there's not, in some of the places, going to be many kind of local fans able to attend the game. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, they're going to have to bring big squads. What are they going to do during isolation remains a question. Like in the last video, someone suggested like using one of our university campuses, which has got like full training facilities. If they could somehow, I don't know how you would do it, man. Again, the logistics are going to be huge, but at least give them some facilities with a field. Like most hotels don't just have a rugby field out the back that the guys could train on, a gym that they can keep fit. So 2 weeks without proper training, you'd think would be a pretty big setback. Whether they can give them gym equipment to work out on in the hotel rooms, again, this is a big logistical question that needs to be worked out. I guess they can bring some of their own gear, charter flights. It might be good to see how the Western Force are managing it. I think I mentioned this in a stream the other day, because the Western Force, who have kicked off in Super Rugby AU, have had a few players back from abroad, but it was probably individuals rather than a whole 40 or whatever man squad. So a little bit different, but I assume the guys are somehow in communications with the other players, coaches, training and all that stuff. So there has to be something we can learn from them. And also there's a question about, will the Springboks and the Pumas be quite underdone compared to the Aussies and the Kiwis, because the All Blacks guys will have had most likely several months of Super Rugby Aotearoa. The Aussies are only about a month behind, but at least it's regular competitive rugby. The other two squads, not so much. Would they be able to play a warm-up game against a Super Rugby team, a Mitre 10 Cup team? I don't know that there'd be room in the schedule once you account for the quarantine time and them trying to keep the tournament, I guess, as compact as possible so these guys can get back to their own countries and their families. Yeah, there's a lot of questions, but the good news is, I guess, that the official word from SANZAAR is that they would like it to still be held this year. They're not just twiddling their thumbs. They're trying to get something sorted where they're going to play the games, all of them, in New Zealand. So that would be nice. It would be a bit of a glimmer of hope in what otherwise has not been the best of years. But we'll see. At least it's a confirmation that something's happening. People are talking about doing stuff. There's still some hurdles in the way. Government approval, some massive logistical questions, but one step forward in the right direction. So there we go. You guys let me know what you reckon. Good news. Can you see it going ahead? Kiwi guys, do you see the New Zealand government allowing this? Personally, I feel like yes, they would probably try to accommodate if possible, if the plans are all set in stone. But yeah, other guys, do you reckon these squads are going to be keen to come? I've mentioned before, New Zealand's got a rugby league team over in Australia playing rugby league, and they've been there for quite some time now, a couple of months. Some of the guys really want to get back. The family connection thing is a big barrier, being away from your family for that long. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.